one of Minecraft's most fascinating mobs was deleted and promptly forgotten. This is the strange story of the Illusioners. April 20th, 2017, Minecraft 1.12, the World of Color update, had just received a new snapshot. And it was within this snapshot that my personal favourite entity would be added to Minecraft, the Illusioners. Now this was the very first snapshot with the Illusioners, so expectations weren't particularly high, and thus the fact that there was no spawn egg for this creature, and he had to be summoned using the command /summon illusion_illager wasn't too big of a deal, as he was going to be improved in future updates, just like all other experimental features. Or so we hoped. So what we knew by that point was that the Illusioner was this cool new hostile mob, and he was obviously an illager, given his ominous appearance, but also given that his literal name ID stated that he was one, and so much like all the other illagers, he'll be hostile to both the players and the villagers. Also, he wore a really unique blue suit, but regardless of all that, the features that truly made the Illusioners unique were their powers. Those being his ability to inflict blindness onto players for 20 seconds, and the fact that he was the only illager who used a bow. Well, at that time. The pillagers didn't quite exist yet. But most importantly, and most interestingly, were his duplication powers that allowed him to create 4 clones of himself, which allowed the Illusioner to cast, well, an illusion onto the player and hide within the shadows. Now it wasn't particularly easy to find the real Illusioner, because while the real one was shooting his arrows at you, all the other clones were also showing the shooting animation. They were identical clones, and so they were indistinguishable from the real beings. Also, the clones couldn't even be hit. However, if you did somehow manage to find the real being, all those clones would fuse back into one, and only the real Illusioner would remain standing before you. Finally, this can be your chance to kill that monster. However, as soon as your hit ends, the clones reappear. And so if you lose that original guy, well, you've lost him, and you're back to dealing with the clones. Now that might sound annoying, and in a way it sort of is. However, it's a really fun mob to fight against, and it's unlike any other battle that you normally encounter. The following week, in Snapshot 17W17A, the Illusioner received an update. This one was primarily focused on his magical powers, as now he could only cast his blindness spell if the regional difficulty was 3 or above. Now you might be wondering, what is regional difficulty? Well, it's a very complicated calculation that indicates how difficult the game will be for you on a chunk by chunk basis. It's a value calculated by the moon phase, the game difficulty, how long you've spent in a chunk, whether you're subscribed or not, and some other complex technical things. It's rather confusing, but just to make it simple, just know that on Peaceful, this value is always 0, and on Easy this value ranges from 0.85 to 1.5. On normal mode this range is 1.5 to 4, and on hard mode the range is from 2.25 to 6.75, and the greater the number the more difficult the game will be. As mobs will start to deal more damage, the chance that they spawn with enchanted items increases, the chance that these mobs spawn with potion effects also increases. And with the Illusioner it gains its ability to activate its blindness spell at a value of 3, thus meaning that it would never use its power on Peaceful mode or Easy mode, but it is possible on normal mode, and very likely on hard mode. But in addition to that rather technical change, the Illusioners also receive custom sounds. So here are the sounds that it now had. Illusioner murmurs. Illusioner casts spell. Illusioner dies. Now, one thing to note about the Illusioner's death sound is that its second iteration of the sound is the same as the Evoker's second death sound. Very strange. But, carrying on, Illusioner hurts. Illusioner displaces. Illusioner prepares blindness. Illusioner prepares mirror image. And finally, the Illusioners also use one sound that is not of their own, but is of the skeletons, and they use that sound whenever they are shooting their bow. And that was it for that snapshot. But later in that week, there was a second snapshot that affected the Illusioners. Snapshot 17W17B. This snapshot changed it so that the blindness spell was now cast if the regional difficulty was 2 or above. So again, this one was quite a technical change, but it now meant that it was now guaranteed that anyone playing on hard mode would 100% encounter this spell if they met the Illusioner, and that it was now far more likely for those on normal mode to also encounter this spell. Next week on Snapshot 17W18B, there were even more changes to the Illusioner, but this time they indicated a dark future for this mob, as the Illusioner was removed as requirements for the Monster Hunter achievement and the Monsters Hunted achievements. This was the first sign that perhaps the Illusioners weren't going to be added to the base game, because if they were no longer needed in those advancements, it implied that the Illusioners weren't intended to be killed, and thus they wouldn't be used in the game, because those advancements are about killing all the available mobs. June 7th, 2017, Minecraft 1.12 was finally released, but the Illusioners had no further changes since that last snapshot, and so they were still only accessible via commands. And so while they were technically in the game, you would never naturally encounter one of these magical mobs, so the fate of the Illusioners seemed grim. It was probably going to end up just like the Giants, a mob that existed but wasn't utilised within the game, and has since been slowly forgotten about. Over the next year, nothing happened to the Great Illusioner, until, on one of the final pre-releases for Minecraft 1.13, something finally happened. On June 28th, 2018, in Java Edition 1.13 Pre-Release 5, the entity ID of the Illusioner was changed. It went from Illusion_Illager to just Illusioner. This was a very small technical change, but it indicated that maybe, just maybe, the Illusioners did have a future within the game, as why else would the developers have changed its name? They could have just left it as it was if they never intended to use him, so there must be a future for it. Minecraft 1.14, the Village and Pillage update. This was a massive update for Minecraft, completely rehauling the villages and massively changing the Illagers, adding raids, as well as a brand new Illager, the Pillager, who used a brand new weapon, the crossbow. Just like the Illusioner, they were using a bow. If there was ever an opportunity for the Illusioners to return, this was it. This was the era of the Illagers, and in a way that sort of happened, as there were multiple snapshots within this update that changed the Illusioners. First, in snapshot 18W43A, the texture of the Illusioners were changed, as now they were given green eyes, just like the other Illagers, such as the Evokers. Wait, remember, they do share a death sound. So does that mean that the Evokers are secretly also the Illusioners? Perhaps the Evokers have been hiding away their secret identity of being Illusioners while they wait to grow in power. The Illusioners could actually just be a disguise for something far eviler than we have ever imagined. The Evokers could be plotting something. Well, probably not. But maybe. It's just a potential theory. But anyways, a few weeks later, in snapshot 18W46A, a loot table was added to the Illusioners. So when an Illusioner is killed by a player or a tame wolf, any naturally spawning equipment, including its unenchanted bow, has an 8.5% chance of dropping, or 9.5% chance with looting 1, 10.5% with looting 2, and 11.5% with looting 3. And it drops this item with a random item durability. In addition, 5 experience orbs are dropped. The Illusioner also drops 1 Illager Ominous Banner if it was a raid captain. A few months later, in snapshot 19W13A, the Illusioners received a brand new behaviour. Now if raiding Illusioners killed all the villagers within the village, or all the beds were destroyed, the Illusioners would celebrate their victory by cheering and jumping up and down. And then on April 23rd, 2019, Minecraft 1.14 was released, the Village and Pillage update. But wait, the Illusioners received no further changes, and so they weren't actually added into the game. Yes, they had received all these changes, but you still needed to summon him with commands. He was once again left outside the bounds of the regular world, forgotten by the outside world. September 15th, 2021. Snapshot 21W37A was released for Minecraft 1.18. The Illusioners were updated to no longer attack baby villagers, and later in Minecraft 1.18, for pre-release 5, the Illusioner texture was changed slightly, as a few misplaced pixels were removed. And then on April 27th, 2022, for Minecraft 1.19, in Snapshot 22W17A, the Illusioner model was changed once again, so that the last 2 rows of pixels on its robes can render properly. But since then, nothing. For over 2 years we have had no changes to the Illusioners. He truly has become a forgotten entity. No one talks about him anymore. However, it might not stay that way. The future. The Illusioners were first added all the way back 7 years ago, and since then they have been receiving semi-frequent changes. If the plan was to just disregard this entity, then we would have to assume that the developers wouldn't waste any time updating him. But they have spent time updating him, and so therefore there must be a plan for the future. Also, issues related to the Illusioner are maintained on the bug tracker. Now, Illusioners are technically an unsupported mob, and as such, any issues relating to them may not necessarily be fixed. But they are still willingly collecting data about him, and there is the potential that they would fix bugs relating to him. And so that only increases the likelihood that he will actually return. But when? Well, I think I might have an idea. As while we don't have an exact idea of what Minecraft 1.22 is just yet, I think that might just be the perfect opportunity to finally add the Illusioners. Given that it was originally made for Minecraft 1.12, and now we are 10 entire updates later, it just seems like a nice time to finally add him. 10 entire updates is quite a long time, and 10 updates just seems like a solid number to finally complete him. So, maybe the Illusioner could be some sort of new villagenoid mob that haunts the new end civilizations that we might get in a potential end update for Minecraft 1.22. But we can't say for certain, as we just don't know yet. But wait, there is something else that you might not know that I do, and that's the story of Minecraft's most terrifying monster. And so if you're interested, consider watching this video.